I thought love was supposed to feel safe. But the night I realized he could lose me, he finally decided to fight for us. I still remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. We were sitting on the couch, inches apart, but it felt like miles. He was scrolling on his phone, barely listening, nodding at things he didn't care to hear. I was talking about my day, my worries, my fears. And suddenly I stopped mid-sentence because I realized something terrifying. He wouldn't even notice if I stopped talking forever. That's how it started. Not with screaming, not with betrayal, but with silence. When I met Daniel, everything felt effortless. He used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. He remembered tiny details, how I liked my coffee, the way I tucked my hair behind my ear when I was nervous, the songs that made me cry. Back then, love felt loud. But love doesn't usually disappear all at once. It fades quietly. Slowly, I became the only one trying. I planned dates. I started conversations. I asked questions he stopped answering. Every time I brought up how distant he felt, he'd sigh and say, "You're overthinking." So I learned to doubt myself. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe this is just what long-term relationships turn into. Then came the emotional roller coaster. One week, he'd surprise me with flowers, hold me all night, tell me I was everything to him. My hope would come rushing back. I'd tell myself, "See, we're okay." The next week, he'd barely text, cancel plans, pull away without explanation. Up, down, hope, disappointment. I lived for the good days and survived the bad ones. The worst part? When things were good, they were perfect. And that made it harder to leave. One night, after another argument that ended with him turning his back to me in bed, I stared at the ceiling and realized something painful. I loved him deeply, but he only loved me when it was convenient. That's when I stopped chasing. Not dramatically, not angrily. I just stopped. I didn't ask where he was. I didn't beg for attention. I didn't remind him of what we used to be. I focused on myself. And that's when everything changed. He noticed my silence. At first, he joked about it. "Wow, you're quiet lately." Then he got uncomfortable. Then, scared. One evening, he finally asked, "Are you mad at me?" I looked at him and said something I'd never said before. "No, I'm tired." That sentence hit him harder than any argument ever had. Because tired doesn't mean angry. It means done. For the first time, he opened up. He admitted he'd been emotionally shutting down, that he felt pressure to be strong, to be perfect, and instead of talking, he withdrew. He never realized how lonely he made me feel. He said, "I thought you'd always be there." And that hurt more than anything, because love shouldn't survive on assumption. The next few weeks were messy, emotional, honest in a way we'd never been before. Some days felt hopeful, other days felt worse than before. But this time, the pain had purpose. He started trying, not with grand gestures, but with consistency. Listening, asking, being present even when it was uncomfortable. And I did something just as important. I stopped losing myself to keep him. We didn't magically fix everything. We still had bad days. But the emotional roller coaster slowed down. Because love isn't about chasing highs and surviving lows. It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard. I won't say our story has a perfect ending, but it has a real one. And sometimes, that's even more powerful. because love doesn't need to be loud to be strong. It just needs two people, brave enough to stop running and honest enough to finally stay.